What's up, everyone? It's finally here. We got our first balance adjustment for Gundam Evolution since the game came out. There's a lot to look at, so let's just go ahead and hop right into it. First off, they're just talking about kind of their general ideology on balance stuff. Now they're committed to keeping the game balanced, which I think is good. And then they go over their general goals. So they did notice that melee units are a bit too strong, particularly Exia and melee, so they are planning to kind of lower their level a bit. They also talked about increasing the general power level of ranged units, which not sure if that's necessary, but I think in overall they want to bring melee down, bring ranged up, so we'll see how that comes across in their changes. So starting off, they've got Pale Rider, and I don't want to say I called it, but in my last video I did say that I felt like Hades was a bit too strong, so it looks like that is what they're going to be mainly focusing on. You can see here they talk about basically all they're doing is increasing how much it takes to charge the G maneuver. So you're not going to be seeing Hades as often when you see it. It's still going to be just as strong, but at least it's going to be a little bit less spammy, maybe more akin to a Melee Zaku G maneuver or a Butterfly or a Tournay's Butterfly. And then they also are doing an adjustment to the EMP grenade. They've doubled the duration of it, but they reduced the slow. I think overall that's a buff. It was kind of a blink and you miss it slow before, now it at least lasts twice as long. They did not adjust the range though, so it's still going to be really hard to hit. They do mention that its design choice was to make it give you a fighting chance against melee units, so it looks like they are keeping with that. And I do think it'll be a bit stronger against them now. So nothing major. But a decent change. And they also say that they're not giving Pale Rider an ammunition increase. That's kind of their general range unit buff that they're doing. And they felt like Pale Rider was performing good enough without it, which I agree with. Next up, we have Gundam, giving them one more shot. I don't actually know if this is necessary. I feel like Gundam was at a really good power level already. And I do feel like there were times where I was kind of just one shot too little to take someone out. So it doesn't seem major, but I don't know if it's really necessary. But you know, I play Gundam a lot. I'll take what I can get. And they're doing a bit of a balance adjustment to Sazabi. They're increasing your effective range by a bit, where the damage fall off starts later and doesn't reach its max value until later. But in exchange, they're dropping your total damage. So I think the idea with this is to make it so Sazabi doesn't melt people up close quite as quickly, but that you can duel more at a mid-range a bit more effectively. I don't really know if these changes were necessary. I know there's been a few times where I've been kind of just obliterated in one shot up close against the Sazabi, but it didn't happen that frequently. So maybe they're just trying to avoid those types of situations. This will make Sazabi, I think, weaker against melee characters. So maybe they felt with the melee adjustments this is okay. But we'll have to see if this really has any major impact with Sazabi. And Metis just getting 2 more shots. I think that's nice. I don't think the character needed anything else too majorly. Sniper, 1 more shot. Don't really think it was necessary. Kind of like Gundam, but I don't think it'll have as big an impact as some other characters, since your fire rate is kind of slow. It just means that you won't have as many gaps where Sniper has to reload, that you're kind of safe. But it was hard to judge those gaps anyways, unless you're really counting the shots. So I don't really know how much of a change it's going to have. Ashimar getting 6 more shots, biggest we've seen so far, but since you do have a 3-round burst, this is basically just 2 more bursts. I think that's good. I think Ashimar is good, but not amazing. So 2 more shots, 2 more bursts, I do think is nice. This character might need more changes in the future, but I think this is fine for now. Dom, 1 more rocket. That's nice for Dom. Dom has a really long reload time, so getting 1 more shot in your clip is nice. I do think Dom is also one of those strong but maybe not too strong characters, so probably okay to give him more ammo. Turn A gets 2 more shots. This is effectively 1 more charge shot if you're using that. I think this is good. I think Turn A is probably one of the characters who has the biggest ammo issues, especially since you have a pretty long reload time. So yeah, I think this is okay. I think Turn A might need more adjustments in the future. I still think their power level is a bit too heavily weighted into their G maneuver, and the rest of their kit suffers a bit for it. So in the future, I do think that maybe they need some sort of bigger buff in general, accompanied maybe with a nerf to Butterfly. But since it does take a long time to charge, maybe they think the character is fine where it is. Then biggest change yet we're seeing to Jim. It looks like they're not getting an ammo change like other characters, but they're getting changes to where their damage fall off starts and ends, like Sazabi, but it looks like the ranges are bigger. It's 200 units instead of just the 100 that Sazabi got. I think that's a pretty good change. I do think like Jim's biggest problem outside of melee fights is just the fact that the damage falls off a bit too sharply at long distances, and the fall off is still going to be the same, but it doesn't start and end until farther out. So I think that's a good change. It might not sound major, but I think it's a pretty good adjustment. And to accompany that, they also made it so you throw the detonator bomb faster. Another good change. So yeah, I'm excited to see these. I think this will make Jim more fun to play. This is a character I already enjoy playing, but it'll make him a bit stronger. We'll have to see how much melee play rate is affected though, because I still think that's Jim's biggest issue, is melee units. And speaking of melee, here's the first one. We got Gundam Exia. So they said they felt that the Sword Rush, that's the charged slash, was doing a bit too much damage, so they lowered the cooldown, which I think is good, and also reduced the max damage from 350 to 300. I'm assuming that impact, well, I guess they don't say it. I don't know if that impacts all charge levels or if it's only the max charge. I guess based on that wording, it's only the max charge. But I don't actually know if that damage is going to change too much. I feel like you're still going to put people at the same threshold where they die to 1 or 2 of your burst from your primary fire. So I don't actually know if that changes any sort of kill thresholds, but I guess it does mean that if you were hurt beforehand, you have a better chance of surviving. I think the cooldown change is the bigger impact of the two. But we'll see. I don't know if this is enough to make Exia more balanced, but it is something. So we'll have to see. Marsai, kind of a melee unit, getting changed. It looks like they are decreasing the speed of the snare. So for those of you who don't know, in the beta, Marsai's snare had a pretty long windup at the beginning of the animation, so it was pretty useless. And they changed that, and now it looks like, it doesn't look like they're changing it back that way, but they're changing how fast the snare actually reaches out. So in theory, this means close range snares basically aren't going to be affected because it's going to hit them before you even notice any sort of speed difference. But farther away, it's going to take the snare longer to get there, so it gives you more time to juke. I think that's probably the best way to nerf the snare. I think I would have liked to have seen maybe some sort of buff to the melee, how it aims targets in to accompany that, but that might be harder for them to change. Maybe they just want to test this and see it first. Also, I feel like Gundam and Marsai were kind of similar units with comparable power levels, and since Gundam got a buff, Marsai got a nerf. That might be less. It might be less similar now, but you know, I know Marsai's hooks could be a problem. So especially the long range ones where you felt like it just got you before you had a chance to do anything. So this might be a good change. And then next up we got Mahiroo. That's the one that everyone has been talking about needing buffs. It looks like for the most part their changes are just cooldown reductions, and I don't think a change to the cooldown reduction on the kick really does much of anything. Admittedly, I'm not good at using that ability, but I also just don't think even the good Mahiroos were using it that frequently, so just giving them a second off, I don't think it's going to change that much. I still think that the particle cannon is just a bad ability, so 10-second cooldown is still pretty long. So I don't know, I'll have to see. I guess it's less punishing if you miss it, but it's still punishing in the sense that using it causes you to self-stun, and you just often die for that. But they do acknowledge that they feel like changing the primary fire is not needed because the main weapon, it does put out a lot of damage, especially to people in groups. So I don't know if that's the right decision. It seems like they're being maybe a bit too careful, but I guess I understand why they're doing that. And then also the G maneuver, increasing the damage on the grenades after they split. I guess it just makes the G maneuver a bit more consistent, higher damage, which I don't actually know if that is probably one of the stronger parts of Mahiroo's kit. I don't know if they really needed that change, but Maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's the kind of change they needed to really up their power level. But overall, I don't think this is going to change Mahiroo's pick rate much. I think this is a nice buff for people who already played Mahiroo, but I don't think it's enough of a major change to really bring in new players who are struggling with the character. But I guess we'll see. And then we got the other melee. We got Zaku melee. Pretty big changes here. So the biggest one is to the G maneuver. They lowered the damage both for regular and enraged. The biggest nerf coming from the enraged damage. And I think this is pretty big. It basically means you're going to have to take an extra hit from the slash at every health level, I think. Because like before 250, that would... Well, I guess that it doesn't change for the 800 health thing. The bigger changes to the enraged one. Like 375, you were 3-shotting 800 health characters. 250, now you have to 4-shot them. And 1,000 health, same thing, where you used to be... Actually, wow, you were 3-shotting 1,000 health people before. Now you're... Okay, it's still 4, but if they heal it all, it's going to take 5. While you actually had overkill for the 3-shot before. So this could be pretty major. It's definitely felt more at the enraged level than the regular level. Part of me wanted to see a nerf for how long it's in effect, but maybe this will be enough. And they've also lowered the range of the projectile on the main slash, so making Zaku Melee more of a melee character. And that actually does seem kind of major. That's shaving off around a quarter of the range that it had, so that could be a big deal. So overall, no change to like how the melee really works. You're still going to be shredding people's shields, but you do have to get closer, and your win button is not as strong. And then last on the list, we have Unicorn Gundam just getting 5 more shots. I think it's unnecessary. I think Unicorn's already pretty strong, but it's not a major change. And that's it for the balance adjustments. Basically, everyone got a change except Gun Tank, Range Zaku, and Barbados. I think those 3 are probably okay. Barbados is actually a bit on the weak side, but they're very annoying, so I'm okay with them not getting a buff. But yeah, that's it for the unit balance. They also talk a little bit about matchmaking. They got rid of the casual party limit where you couldn't party with people outside of a certain rating. I guess that's probably good for people who've been playing the game for a while and they have new friends who want to play. That probably now means that they can party together if they couldn't before. And then they're also adjusting the leaver penalty. Looks like they're making it a bit more harsh, which is good if it's affecting people who are actually leaving. Not so good if it's affecting people who are getting disconnected. And they say they're changing some of the disconnect stuff, which is good, but... or they have changed, and I agree with that. I haven't been disconnecting as much as I was at the start of the thing, but without a good rejoin system, I don't know. Still feel like there's work to be done here. In addition to the balance changes, they're also expanding the game to new regions. Looks starting on, when the new patch drops on the 26th. Looks like mostly to more regions in Europe. So you see Guam on there as well. And then they also say that on the 30th of November, they're expanding to more regions here. So I do know I had a commenter saying from Mexico and can play the game. Looks like if you can wait till November 30th, they'll have it for you then. Kind of sucks you have to wait that long, but at least it's on the list. Then even farther out, Australia and New Zealand. So unfortunately I have to wait that long, but at least they are on the radar. And then last up, they've got some promotional items they're giving away for free to everyone for the Witch from Mercury anime, which is a new Gundam anime. And it looks like you just get these from logging in. They're just kind of ornaments and stamps, icons. Kind of cool, nothing major, but at least they're free. So that's it. That about covers everything. Overall, I think pretty good patch. Maybe a little bit too on the safe side, but I guess it's better than them doing anything too radical and completely changing up the game. But we'll have to see if the melee nerfs are big enough. I still think those characters are very strong, but they definitely did get some changes. Melee Zaku more so than Exia, I think. Yeah, overall good. Not too many changes I was upset about, but maybe just hoping for a little bit more. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are you happy about these changes? Upset? Think they weren't enough? Too much? And also, do you think it's going to affect who you're playing? You get some new characters that got buffed you want to play, or you think you're going to change away from a nerfed character? Interested in hearing. But yeah, that's everything from me. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.